2024 Formula One will return to China for the first time since the COVID pandemic. And for Chinese motor racing fans, there's even more to celebrate, as for the first time in history, there'll be a native driver taking to the grid in Shanghai, Zhou Guanyu.
F1 is back. Let's have a...
The 24-year-old joined the Sauber team in 2022, becoming the first Chinese driver ever to line up on the F1 grid. We spoke to him at the end of last season.
So, how did you get into the sport?
I just really loved it since the first ever Grand Prix I watched, and I really want to be like one of these drivers back in the days who was racing on the circuit in the world fastest or coolest F1 cars. So then I started to do a bit more like indoor karting, a little bit like a hobby, and absolutely loved it the first time I ever tried it. I just feel it's just so cool the way like you are in fully responsibility of yourself, controlling your own car, and there's no one else can help you when you have the helmet on, you know, when you have an 8-minute session, you know, it just everything is just, disturbed, or everything was just unto yourself, what you can do. And then, yeah, I just find it super cool. I love cars, I love the noise of this crazy engine, the speed, so I just, really want to start karting or start this career. So yeah, after karting, I was actually pretty good at it. And as a kid, like 7 years old, I was doing the same lap time as the adults. So yeah, and the manager of that kart circuit quickly introduced me into outdoor track, which is more like a professional go-kart track with the professional team from Shanghai that you own karts and then you race in Shanghai and China Championship. That's all started afterwards.
And what role did your family play?
My dad was fully convinced me, happy for me to do that, because he loves, in general, cars himself anyways, but obviously he never did any motorsports. But then, of course, my mother and some of the family, let's say the grandparents, they are a little bit worried because obviously racing is still a little bit risk or high risk, and then it's still quite a lot, let's say, danger opportunities. So they wasn't too sure, but I think as long as they saw the interest I had and the passion I had with just in general with sports cars, motorsports, race cars, they was actually very happy for me just to start that as a hobby. But then, quickly it changed into like a professional role after, let's say, 3-4 years in go-kart.
The hobby as well as the more professional versions, it's very expensive, isn't it? So you need support, right?
Yeah, my family gave me absolutely all the support I can get from them. So I'm very happy that they was able to, let's say, supporting me all the way from the very beginning. And then I do feel like, let's say, they gave me the opportunity for me to maybe try to succeed my dream, which was become a Formula One driver. Of course, like racing in general, it doesn't come freely. You need some potential fundamenship and together sponsorship in order to arrive where you are, arrive to Formula 3, Formula 2, and then you can really make the difference on yourself, depends on the results, and give you these opportunities to be stepping one more step, which is F1.
Before you started in Formula One, the most important class, you moved to the UK when you were very young. How was that like?
That was tough. That was very tough. Let's say that was more tough than just, let's say, driving the car or improving, because firstly, I don't speak any English at the beginning, and then I was moving into UK. The culture, the people, the way people live in their life is completely different to what being lived in China for all this 10 years or 11 years, because I moved at 12 years old to UK. And I didn't move to London. I moved to Sheffield, which is north of United Kingdom, which is a place that's so laid back, and mainly just because my race team was based in Sheffield, their factory. So I want to spend my time traveling together to the racetrack with the van, with the track, with the members, just to improve my driving, get better. So that was the whole thing. I was able just to take let's say, the optimal risks in the same time, also the sacrifice in order I want to reach in another level. So yeah, that's how everything just kind of started in UK.
What was your first big break?
I would say when I stepped into UK and then I became the, let's say, the United Kingdom karting champion and the European champion in the same year, which I secured 2 championships. That was pretty cool because I was actually, that championship, I was racing with Lando Norris together. And, we've been like racing together since a young kid because we both born in the same year. So I always tried to race against the best young drivers, best category. So I had honor to obviously racing with him, and winning both championships for me was a pretty amazing feeling because it just makes my hope for my future dream a lot more like real. Because at the beginning, when I first arrived to UK after being winning everything in China you can imagine of, I was there only around P12, P10, you know, my position. So that was very tough for me as a young kid to digest because you was a champion of everything back home and you arrive to UK, you can't arrive top 10, so that's tough. But then when I finally won the race, won the championship, after a year of, let's say, improving, I was really feeling, you know, the chance was there for me to take for the future. And then, yeah, we continued afterwards to Formula 4, which is the bigger cars. It's the real game started, you know, for F4, F3, F2, and then this normal ladder into F1.
Tell me about the moment when you were handed your first chance to drive in a Formula 1 car on race weekend.
That was very special. That was, let's say, a day that I really felt very stressed, nervous, because I was driving, of course, for the first time in a Grand Prix weekend on FP1 in Austria. I know you're from Austria, right? Is that so? And then as well is a car of Alonso, which was my idol, my racing idol since 2005. After my first year watching F1 from 2004, so he still is my racing idol. So stepping on his car, I do feel a lot of responsibility, but on the other hand, I do feel like it's such a honor for me just to having a good chance of showing what I can do as a young driver from the academy of the same company at the time was Alpine Renault. So yeah, I really enjoyed that Friday, let's say. It was very special, and I do feel he also gave me a lot of advice, tips that helped me, before preparation for that day.
So being the first Chinese person to drive in Formula 1, how has that changed your life?
I mean, to be honest, of course, it doesn't really change my life too much because I feel like this was my dream, but it changed a lot the whole, let's say, the country of the knowledge about Formula 1, also the popularity of Formula 1 being a huge increase, since the very first race in Bahrain. We reached the highest viewership on TV, internet views between the live race. So that was pretty special because I do feel like at the time, the dream was so far away and there was no, let's say, ex-Chinese Formula 1 driver. So for me, like, everybody rated me as like the closest to be there when I was in F2. So I really felt the pressure, and in the same time, let's say, this energy pushed me to, do everything I can to reach that. So when I finally achieved that, I was really emotional in general because it's your dream. I haven't think about like the first Chinese driver, but the first thing is it was a dream. Like, it felt very unreachable. Maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, 2 years before I got the deal done, it was still feeling real, but still feel very far. You never know the chances you have. So that was very special. And now everything just feels so good to be the first Chinese driver. And especially a lot of young generations starting karting, F4, they're really looking up to what you have done, take you as like their idol of racing. That's just very nice feeling, like what I've been doing with Alonso.
I've seen on your Instagram, when you go to China, to Shanghai, there are fans waiting for you, cheering for you in the shopping mall, for instance.
Yeah, that was very, very cool. Also, at the airport, it was quite special because I didn't tell anyone my flight. It was a connection flight from somewhere in Spa to China via Dubai, I think. But somebody managed to got my information from the flight details. So there was there like, not many, but like 20, 30 people on the airport, but I was trying to low-key go back home, but still people recognize one as my flight. It just shows that they really want to meet you, and it's a nice feeling, of course. And in the event, you know, when I was there, I was very shocked because last year I went there, it was a lot of fans, but compared to this year, how much that 1 year has been increased, my popularity also, the supporters has been growing huge. So I do feel like it's more like a, let's say, celebrities going to have that feeling because there was so many people. I need like 6 security around me to making sure I get my way clear into the car, into the next event area. But it was a good feeling. Everybody was there, having your mini helmets, your merch together, want you to sign and shouting your names. That was just a good feeling. It almost feel like I'm at Chinese Grand Prix.
To become so popular in this year and a half or a year, are there any negative effects?
Not really. I mean, I would say the only negatives I had was very beginning of my career in Formula One, which was when I signed the deal, people was very doubts about what I can do. You know, they don't think I was deserved to be there. They don't think I have the, let's say, the driving skills to be there. And of course, all the people said that was the guys who didn't really watch Formula 2 or as an early stage of my career. But I accept that because, you know, Formula 1 is only 20 seats. You know, there's more than 20 good drivers fighting for that. So it's normal they supporting maybe their countrymen, whoever. But yeah, I do feel I did change people around very quickly in maybe 1 or 2 races. Thankfully for my debut scoring points, that was very special for me, just to let them understand what actually I am as a driver, what I can do. I'm not here because I'm the first Chinese driver. I'm here actually I can compete with the world, let's say, quickest race drivers. So yeah, that was probably the hard moment when I signed the contract, because it's like when you reach your dream, a lot of people send you negativities, but you know, social media platform has been growing massively, and this is like kind of the negative effect you will have in the same time as the popularity has growing. So, but now it's the last 1 year and a half has been pretty good, pretty stabilized, and people know what I can do and see my personality as a driver, off track as a person. So, very happy with what I'm able to achieve. But of course, plenty more I want to do better and more successful in the future.
I want to talk about the safety aspect. What do you think about the safety aspect in the sport?
Yeah, I feel very, let's say, very safe at most of the times because it's improving every year. Let's say from one first-time driver Formula 4 car 2014 and to now it's almost 10 years, but the difference made every year so good. And not just by, of course, bringing the halo, it's kind of the biggest doubt people was, you know, asking at the time. And now everybody is fair to say this is the biggest, let's say, success that FIA in terms of safety management was able to bring up this, you know, different design, weight very heavily, but makes a big improvement in the impact. Also in the close racing, wheel to wheel, when a car, not just when you're upside down, of course upside down, this help your head to be not scrapping on the floor, but also when you're side by side, many times in the past, you know, a wheel of another car could be on top of your helmet, which takes a big risk. So yeah, it's been very good, and I do feel we're very safe to race, and yeah, big impact, you know, in Silverstone as we saw last year, and also this year had a big one in Zandvoort, which was 19G, but to be racing straight away next week, and it just shows how much it improved.
What does it feel like to be upside down in the Formula One car?
Well, it doesn't feel good. Obviously, it's a quite scary moment, but also in the other time, everything happened so quickly. You were just hoping for the best, and yeah, nothing I can do, nothing I can avoid. Unfortunately, it's a race incident by a car behind who they was fighting 2 wheels and then touched me in the worst position as possible, made me flip. But yeah, I was arriving into the barrier in the very quick speed, so that was a very scary moment, landed in between the barriers, but lucky enough I stayed, let's say, conscious the whole way. I was able to actually switch off my engine myself to making sure I don't have any fire danger with leaking, you know, fuel into this problem. So yeah, after I switched that, I was quite happy or safe because I know that I won't be in a rush to getting out of the car because I was in a position that's almost impossible to get out of the car. So that was probably the scary moment, but happy to be walk off. And I think the craziest thing is the next week I had a race and I was straight back to that race, back to the car. So after the car got destroyed the weekend before. So yeah, I was happy for that. And of course, this year, I think the main mission for me in Silverstone was try to finish that Grand Prix and then to clear that 2022 season race out of the mind.
What about your ambitions? Where do you see yourself in the future? Are there any other teams, any other options on the table?
I mean, my future, I don't know where I see in 2 years' time, but I'm just very happy, let's say, that next year I was coming to be still staying where I am because I feel like the people I've been working over 1.5 years, they know me a lot better now. We know what's the team in terms of the vision going forward in the future. And I just want happy to be, be taking part of this journey before, the team turning into the manufacturing. So yeah, happy to stay where I am at the moment and go share together with the team at the minute.
Coming up after the break, we'll talk more to China's first ever F1 driver and also his team boss, Alessandro Alunni Bravi.
I think it should be more global cooperation.
I would like to hear more the voice of the developing countries.
Globalization has lifted more than 1 billion people out of poverty.
The green transition has to happen. It's a necessity.
Well, China and the United States are important powers in the world.
What unites us is much more than what divides us. And I believe China is committed to this agenda.
Join me, Juliet Mann, to set the agenda at these times every weekend on CGTN.
We are all connected. Across borders, across continents, connected by ideas, a shared humanity. Stay connected.
It's here in a countryside canton just outside Zurich that the Sauber team is gearing up for the 2024 F1 season. But just how tough is it to keep up with the pack in F1? I spoke to team representative Alessandro Alunni Bravi.
I think that is always a big challenge for every team, for every manufacturer, when there is a big change in the technical regulations. And the 2026 regulations will be more than a change. Will be complete new rules for the chassis. They are still, in discussion between teams and the FIA, and there is a completely new regulation for the power unit. We will be using 100% sustainable fuels, and also the ratio between the internal combustion engines and the batteries, the electric part of the engine, will be 50-50. So now this ratio is 80% internal combustion engine in terms of maximum output and 20% from the battery. So you can see how much the new power units will be different. And the emphasis will be really big on the electric side, on the battery. And this is the direction we want to go with Formula One, to become more sustainable in all areas, but also to push towards sustainability with the power units, using e-fuels and having 50% of power produced by the electric engines. It's a challenge, of course. It's a challenge for every team, especially because you don't have reference. When you have stability in the regulation, it's really challenging first to set up the right targets for the design and development of the car. And second, to find within the regulation certain areas of interpretation that can maybe give a competitive advantage if well interpreted. This is a challenge for everybody.
With Zhou as a driver, how important is the Chinese market to Alfa Romeo Sauber?
Of course, Chinese market has been important for the car manufacturer, and now there is a kind of transformation, you know. Many car manufacturers are not so present in China, but there are a lot of Chinese brands that are coming to the market. Not just local market, but also they want to be abroad. For instance, this year, in the Shanghai, automotive exhibition, there were almost 100 new brands. So you can understand how much is important automotive in China and how much is important the automotive market for the car manufacturers. For us as a team, having a first and only Chinese driver, China is crucial. Of course, it's not an automatic equation that having a Chinese driver, you can be supported by Chinese brands or companies, you know. There is a long work to be done on the commercial side, and also to, I would say, explain to Chinese company how to use, how to exploit the F1 global platform. This, I think, will take time, and this, I think, will be important for Formula One to go back to Shanghai, because this is part of the learning process. What is missing for me now, Formula One, of course, is popular, but still it's not well known. It's important for all of us to be there, to share our message, to show how much can be exciting Formula One, how much is more than a sport. We are now a lifestyle, an entertainment event. But on the other side, this can be the best promotional platform for Chinese company. For our team, the fact that Zhou is one of our drivers has been an asset mainly for European companies that wants to be associated with him in order to position their brand in a different way in China, in order to have a privileged access to the market. So I would like to say that maybe has been the opposite way for us. We have benefited more from having Zhou as our driver for our existing partners or new partners that want to enter into the Chinese market, more than to have the opportunity to seek for sponsorship in the Chinese market through Zhou. I think this will happen in the next years after the Shanghai Grand Prix.
But this very advanced technology also has a price, also for sponsors, investors. So going now to the...
Let me say about this, because this is important. What means price? First of all, you know how much is, I would say, the cost, the R&D cost to develop a new model. So Formula One, the cost of Formula One proportionally is really low compared to the cost to develop new models. But also the technology that you can develop through Formula One, the cost to develop these technologies is very much lower than the cost that you would sustain to develop this technology outside of Formula One in a normal development process. Formula One gives you the possibility to cut the time to market of new technologies. It's a very important testing bench, and this reduces this time to market, and so the cost to develop new technologies. On the other side, we deal each day with very short processes. We need to be reactive, we need to be efficient, we need to fix and solve problems on a daily basis. So what the best environment you can find for your technician, for your management, to learn this. Formula One is also good for the people, that can then apply these processes, to different industries, including car manufacturers. We have seen that motorsport has always been the very best environment for car manufacturers to develop their products. So the cost and benefit for me, this ratio, is really in favor of Formula One.
You've been in this business for a while. What future do you see for Zhou? Where do you see him in a few years?
I think this is, for a driver, is always depending at which stage of his learning curve he is. And this is difficult to predict. There are drivers that arrive in Formula One, but then year after year they are able to do a step, to improve in terms of speed, in terms of technical understanding of the car, in terms of race management, and you see them progressing. One example is Max Verstappen. I think in the last 2-3 years he didn't do any single mistake. Before he was more aggressive, but sometimes was super fast, but was not able, to complete the job because of some mistakes. Same Charles Leclerc or Carlos Sainz. You can see an evolution. Other drivers arrive, they are very strong, but then they are already at the top of their learning curve. And so then they plateau, a little bit. For me, Zhou is still in the first part of his learning curve. It will be important for him to see what will be the next step, to understand how much he can progress. This is also an element for us, to assess what is his potential, which could be the next Zhou.
So there's plenty to focus on for Zhou and his team before the 2024 F1 season kicks off in Bahrain in February and the return to Shanghai in April. But there was just one other question I wanted to ask before leaving the Sauber complex.
So basically, you drive as a job, right?
Yeah.
But do you like to be driven by a driver like Marco, for instance, or would you rather drive yourself?
I do like being driven, actually, because if let's say a driver or a guy I trust he's driving, I'm happy to be in passenger seat. For example, in the race weekend, I never drive a car myself, maybe once or twice in like 6-7 races. So I don't normally drive. I like to the passenger seat, have a bit more time to have a look at my phones, reply some texts as well. So because we don't really get much personal time, so on the way to the track or on the way back from work, it's just nice to be having a long time, not just worry about driving anything else. So yeah. But beside from working, if I'm back home, in China, for example, holidays or anywhere for locations, I like to drive myself. Doesn't matter how long, doesn't matter how bad the traffic is. I prefer to be on the driving seat because I just doesn't hate driving. But if I'm on the track, race weekend, I don't drive.
So Marco, what do you think? Is he a good person to be driving, or is he like a backseat driver who tells you you should go faster, slower?
Oh no, he's very good to drive, and I hope he likes my driving skills.
It's good. No danger yet, so.
No.
No accidents with Marco?
No.
No, always carefully.